digress here again. Tell whoever's listening here to this, the business that was just to the east of you in that same building.
Streeter's Cleaners.
And that was Richard
Yeah,
Streeter's
that was
dad.
Richard Streeter's dad.
And you remember what his first name was? Elting.
Elting, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that
Elting
interesting?
Streeter, yeah.
Elting Streeter. But
Yeah.
that was Richard Streeter's dad.
Yeah, yeah. Had a guy working for him in the back that done the cleaning, R.T. Mason. I don't know if you remember R.T.
Oh, I remember R.T.
Oh, he was a tester.
Yeah, and R.T. eventually, took the cleaners over.
Yeah, he took it over.
Yeah.
He ran it for
R.T.
him.
Mason and his wife.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those, going back to that area right there, we discussed this on, that's just the angling across from, at that time, the police station, and the jail was over there, and then the fire department was right there in the front. Had a salesman come in there one time, and he drank all the time, and he needed to drink pretty bad.
Okay.
So he said, man, all that little woman over there in Pryor last night, I stayed all night, and she stole all my whiskey. And I hadn't had a drink all morning. We're talking 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well, it's 12 o'clock someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I said, well, you can go right out the back door and get you one back there in the alley. And he said, you can? I said, yeah. I said, I'll take you over and introduce you to you.
Again, for the people listening, we were dry state.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt at that time. So you're talking about
Bootlegger.
And his name was?
Lamb Carroll.
Okay.
And he's a block, actually a half a block from the jail.
Right behind our plumbing shop.
Yeah, right behind your plumbing shop. So I take him over there, introduce him to Lamb. I remember Lamb saying it was kind of early in the morning. Well, you could sit down at his dinner table. He'd just pour you a drink. He'd buy a drink there, just like you didn't have to go in and buy a bottle. Normally, if you go to a Bootlegger in those days, you bought a bottle and left. Well, he got him a drink. Come back up to the shop. You could just go out my back door and into his Lamb's, and then you could come back in through the backside of the cleaners and back in. And he come up there and he said, I think that guy waters his whiskey down. And about that time, Bud Glover come in, and they went down to Clex to have breakfast. Well, I went over to Lamb's, and I said, Lamb, I think that guy said he thought you watered his whiskey. He said, I don't water no whiskey. So when the guy came back, he got ready to go. He said, I better go over and get me another drink. And I said, well, okay. So, boy, he come back blowing these nose, wiping his eyes out. And I said, what's the matter, Stewart? And he said, boy, that's the strongest whiskey I believe I ever drank. He poured some 190 proof on him.
Yeah.
But they struck up a friendship after that. I started sitting there. Every time that guy come in there, he had to go over and sit down. And he wasn't just sitting there having one or two. Him and Lamb got to be old buddies. But that was funny, the Bootlegger within it. Because he said, well, isn't that the police station? I said, yeah. And he said, there's a Bootlegger right here behind. I said, yeah.
And the city lockup was right there under that
building,
too, between that and the waiting pool.
Yeah, between there and the waiting pool.
The kid waiting on the Liberal Progress papers, the press would break down. So we'd go up there to the old bandstand and we'd just hang around there.
Yeah.
My memory is that you could talk to those guys that were locked up there for 24 hours.
Oh, you could.
And they'd come in there and say, hey, go get me a cigarette.
Yeah.
And you'd be looking at them thinking, gee, should I go do this,
Some of those drunks would go get them a bottle and bring it up and give it to those guys.
Yeah, because somehow you could, I can't remember just exactly, you could just talk to them.
Yeah, it was down in there.
Yeah.
Probably a little wall down through there about that high, and this was all this lawn out here. You could just look right in there.
And you could see right over the waiting pool.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'd say, yeah, go over and talk to Ralph over there and tell him so-and-so needs a cigarette or something. Yeah. So you'd run over Ralph Lincolnfelder and hand you a cigarette. You remember Ralph? Oh, Ralph
Lincolnfelder. That was, on that side of the street at that point in time, there was Ralph Lincolnfelder's filling station. Kelsey's, I don't know whether you remember that or not. Kelsey had he called a second-hand store, pawn shop.
Pawn shop. A little hotel above it tomorrow.
Tom Taylor's had a little grocery store in there at one time. I'll never forget, that'd be directly across from almost from the shoe shop. And one day, Roger Pearson, I don't know whether you remember that or not, he worked in there with me in the shoe shop. He was running a leather cutting machine there that had a gear out on one end of it, and he was over here working on this. And I walked up there and laid my hand on there and was standing there talking to him, and it caught my hand in that gear and just cut a piece of hide off of it. Well, blood just running, you know, and Roger saw that, and boy, he started getting queasy, and he said, I gotta go, I'm gonna cross the street and get something to drink. So he run out the front door, and he went across it. Well, back in them days, you know, you pour a little kerosene on it and wrap it up with a rag, and that was about it. And I'm in there working away, and he hadn't come back. All of a sudden, I hear this screaming and yelling. I thought, what is that? I run to the front door, and Miss Taylor, and she was an older woman, him and her both older, and she wore one of those white aprons like the meat cutters used to wear. And she was standing out there flipping the tail of that thing, screaming to the top of her voice. And I thought, what in the world? And I went running over there. She said, I think he's dead, I think he's dead. Well, the old man was pretty old, and I thought, well, the old man died back there. And I went running back there, laid Roger on the floor, passed out, colder than a wedge. That blood had got the best of him, and he couldn't take it. He passed out. We got in the pop box, you know, when you slide the drawers back and forth, got a little water out of it, and sprayed it and woke him up. But he couldn't take that blood. Then anyhow, on down past that, I believe there was a barber shop in there at one time. I don't remember whose that was.
On your side of the street?
No, it was on across the street. Ed Gregg's place, the auto supply place, was over there. And of course, the old hotel.
Twin Oaks.
Yeah, Twin Oaks. Can't really remember. And of course, later, I don't remember what was in that. Oh, I do remember. Barefoot, a guy by the name of Barefoot, had a TV shop in there. That's where I saw first TV shop I ever saw was in his room.
Barefoot. And his wife was a school teacher.
Yeah, she was. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember right next door to the Glovers? Now, what I don't remember Glovers, but there's a guy there named Smut Beard.
Oh yeah, Smut had a little bitty barber shop. Yeah. Well, there's a beauty shop in there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as kids would walk by, and old Smut would be in there, he'd be in his chair, just a one-chair place, sound asleep.
Yeah.
You just hear him snoring, there was no air conditioning, the door would be open.
Yeah.
And you'd look in there, you know, and you know, Smut only knew how to cut hair one way, so you usually only went there one time.
Yeah, you didn't want to go in there very often. You know, his daughter and he lived up there on Seminole.
Yes, sir.
And those guys, a bunch of them volunteered, went up there and cleaned that old place up. It was really gotten ragged there.
Jerry Ragsdale was one of the guys that sort of spearheaded that.
They really made it
and
nice.
Gave her a decent place to live.
Yeah.
And she became sort of a recluse.
Yeah, that's right. She was kind of a strange gal. He was too. As a matter of fact, I think he finally got mentally off to where